Within these walls, there is much more than hand-cut timbers, hand-hewn rock, and beautiful pioneer craftsmanship. These walls resonate with the rich heritage, the stories of spirit and determination, and the vivid memories of all those who walked its halls. Yes, these walls speak, and if we listen closely, the story of the Oneida Stake Academy will continue to inspire, tying the past to the present for the future.
Everything in this building bespeaks handmade and made with love.
A group of people a century ago rallied, sacrificed, gave all that they had to build an institution that they knew would far outlast their generation.
It represents that solid foundation that every community needs, and this community happens to be blessed with and needs to be preserved.
Saved from destruction in 2003, now it's time to finish the restoration of the Oneida Stake Academy to its original splendor, preserving its voice to tell the story of the value placed on education and culture in this frontier town. The Oneida Stake Academy was one of 35 academies built by Mormon pioneers in the late 1800s. Their sole purpose was to provide an inspirational setting for youth to obtain a first-class education. Despite the frontier challenges, pioneers barely surviving and living in crude homes themselves built this grand structure in Preston, Idaho between 1890 and 1895. Today, the Oneida Stake Academy is one of only 5 of these buildings still surviving, and the only one in Idaho.
The foundations of their history are probably more tied to that building than most communities because it's played such an important historical role in its past.
They put their resources into building this great building and building the Oneida Stake Academy. And I think that tells us a lot today about the importance of education, that our forefathers felt that it was so important. And it takes that to become a leader in a community and to influence the direction that your community, your state, and your nation is going to take.
The positive reactions in Provo have been amazing, and it makes the community very special to have these historical links.
The sacrifice and goal of these humble pioneers in Franklin County to lift the sites of their youth to greatness worked. World, national, and local leaders, as well as generations of simply good people, have honed their skills within the walls of the Oneida Stake Academy. Ezra Taft Benson, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, along with his upperclassman Harold B. Lee, both became presidents of the Worldwide Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and were among its prestigious alumni. Other well-known graduates include national hero Samuel Cowley, inducted into the FBI Hall of Fame, and E.G. Peterson, former president of Utah State University.
Harold B. Lee was a boy growing up in this community, I suspect like any other farm boy, and to say that it shaped him would be an understatement. He never lost that love of learning, and I think it was instilled in him in this farming pioneer community in Franklin County.
Whoever would have anticipated that this small farming community in southeastern Idaho would produce those kinds of men to an academy that still stands today? And I'm a beneficiary of sacrifices made 110 years ago.
The 3-story Oneida Stake Academy was once the cultural center of a 100 square mile area in southeastern Idaho. But with age comes disrepair, and the academy was scheduled to be demolished in 2003. Horrified to lose such a historic landmark, Friends of the Academy miraculously raised $1.3 million to save and move the 113-year-old building. The 1,600-ton structure was carefully lifted by 41 hydraulic dollies onto 328 wheels and rolled 2.5 blocks to its spectacular new home at Benson Park.
When that building moved across the ground, it was unbelievable, and yet it held together. Now, to me, that was our Father in Heaven's stamp on this building, that it didn't crumble and fall to earth.
A century of signatures in the belfry staircase and volumes of memories were saved. Now comes the exciting challenge of restoring this historical gem to its original grandeur. The vision for the Oneida Stake Academy is to magnify its former use and again become a center for education and culture as a historically rich community center, preserving its 120-year history for generations to come.
This is a gift to this community where the people who live here can come here and hold their events, and people who don't live here can come see the history that this building embodies. This is where people gathered for community events, and this is what will happen again. This will be the icon of the pioneer history that's available for other people to come see.
The Oneida Stake Academy was listed on the National Historic Register in 1975 and as well is conveniently located on the nationally recognized Pioneer Historic Byway. This beautifully restored community center could also welcome travelers experiencing the byway.
This is something that your children and your grandchildren will be able to not just read about in a book. They'll be able to see it, to walk through it, to smell it, to touch it. That's true history.
The preservation of these academies is particularly important because otherwise it would be a lost part of the past. To look at a picture of a building is not like looking at that building.
Each room will tell a story to the byway traveler, as well as local residents to whom this history belongs. The main floor will house an information center, a historical classroom, and a museum interpretive center. The museum and turn-of-the-century classroom will be of significant interest to visiting school groups as it directly supports their state history curriculum. The basement will provide restrooms, a kitchen, and a large meeting room, all of which are for public use. The top floor ballroom will be restored to its original elegance as the perfect setting for important events like weddings, receptions, class and family reunions, and other gatherings. Musicals, plays, and other entertaining events in the ballroom and courtyard will enrich everyone's visit to the Academy.
What an opportunity to have a central spot in our town that has our history in it.
I think it could be a great facility for the arts more than anything else in my mind, but I think it can be an economic driver too.
So I think it's very important to our economy and to our city.
The miraculous effort to save and relocate this structure was accomplished. Now it is our responsibility to restore and preserve it.
We want to restore it back to exactly what it was as close as possible, making sure that it meets the original intent as much as possible, but it is safe for people to be in. Everything from stairways and elevators to fire sprinkling to earthquake loading, as well as very comfortable so that it has heating and air conditioning in it. But there's some things we really don't want to lose because it represents the age of the building. There are hundreds of signatures and it would be easy to take them out, but they represent generations of people that somehow felt that they ought to leave their mark behind of this great old building.
They don't have great use of that building now, and without use it will not persist. It will be torn down, and that would be a great tragedy for that community.
It's the most important work that we can do with regard to preserving that past and restoring those values that seem to have gone wanting.
We need to finish the project that was started by people who had the vision.
I want the children to know what they're capable of. And if we don't have something to show them, they can't visualize it. And this will allow them to see who they come from. Because all those pioneers had when they built this building was a hunk of rock on the side of a mountain and their own ingenuity.
The sacrifice that those people made to build this building, it would be a crime for us with so much to tear it down.
It will be a gift to the children, to me.
I think if these walls could talk and tell about what they have seen over the last 120 years, I think their story would be such of progress.
If these walls could talk, I would hear a lot of history. And that it has shown a community how they really can develop talents, how they can develop individuals who have character, who have strength.
One of my favorite quotes from Winston Churchill is, he once said, "We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us." And when one considers a place like the Oneida Stake Academy, where sacrifices were made by a handful of people, knowing that they would shape the physical building itself, but that as years passed, that building would shape the lives of many, many people, including my grandfather, including Harold B. Lee. And these men would go on and impact the lives of countless people. Really speaks to how important a building is. It says a lot about a community and what they value in the kinds of buildings they have and what they choose to preserve. And my hope would be that the citizens of Preston and far beyond will rally, will see the value of restoring this beautiful edifice because of what it means, because of what it represents.
The Oneida Stake Academy is the visual and tactile link that ties our rich pioneer heritage to the present, allowing future generations to grasp the timeless values that inspired its construction. Within these walls, there is so much more than old wood and stone. There are the voices of more than a century, voices that need to be heard well into the future.